We're good?
I think so. I think so.
Is it happening at this point? So, okay, all right. So the fans are off. Dog is fed. All right. You got your rings off. Pants are off. No?
Wait, give me a second here.
All right, hang on.
Okay.
All right. From Rochester, New York, the home of four very strange people, this is FC3's Monkey Business, your one-stop shop for everything geeky. And everything can be geeky if you love it enough. Starring Billy DeTore, starring Tanya Metris, starring Dan Carmen, and also starring me. I am your host. My name is Chris. Hello.
Hello.
Hello. I'm glad I had the foresight just to not wear pants.
See,
It makes it so much easier.
It made for a very awkward walk up Dewey Avenue to my house, but still, you made it work.
That's why Juno was barking.
You owned it.
I mean, if you saw someone walking down the street with no pants, would you say anything?
Not in this city.
No,
Yeah,
not in
no.
this day and age, no.
It depends.
Yeah. Maybe if they were wearing depends. I don't know.
That's right.
I don't know.
Yeah.
How are you guys doing?
Doing good.
It's been a week. You okay there, brother?
Yeah.
Just thinking about it. I think, am I doing okay or not? I don't know.
Yes, just do an inventory check.
Yes, all parts are there.
We are all in a part of our life where it's basically when you wake up in the morning, you can hear Picard in the background going, "Damage report." I'm saying it's a thing.
It is?
It is.
Mm-hmm. All parts present and accounted for, sir.
Good to know. Some assembly required. Anyway. So, all right. I don't think I have anything really for an opening today, so let's just start talking about what we're going to talk about. We can do a quick break, and then we're going to jump into it in earnest, but we're going to continue our new series on Not a Book Clubbing the World at this point. And we're going to start with a continuation of what we were talking about last week. We talked about Star Wars A New Hope, Episode 4, the first original movie of the Star Wars franchise. Today is going to be none other than Empire Strikes Back, the sequel to end all sequels, the sequel that set the standard for what a second movie should look like in a franchise. And the ups and the downs and the technical aspects of what that was all about. And there's Juno.
And the squeaky toys.
And the squeaky toys. Juno's in the background doing her thing. She's like, oh, no. Tiny took the toy away, and then she looked at you like, you're going to throw it now, right?
No. Later.
That's not going to help Dan. She's going to bring it back now. That's good. So we're going to take a quick break while I stash Juno in my room, and then when we come back, it's time for The Empire Strikes Back. Episode 5, The Empire Strikes Back. It is a dark time for the rebellion. Although the Death Star has been destroyed, Imperial troops have driven the rebel forces from their hidden base and pursued them across the galaxy. Evading the dreaded Imperial Starfleet, a group of freedom fighters led by Luke Skywalker have established a new secret base on the remote ice world of Hoth. The evil Lord Darth Vader, obsessed with finding young Skywalker, has dispatched thousands of remote probes into the far reaches of space. Got it on take 2, didn't I?
I was supposed to hit record right there, wasn't I?
Oh, you mean person, you.
How is Luke leading already?
See, that's a weird thing. I mean, how much time is supposed to be between
3 years.
There's 3 years between the first and the second movie?
Yes.
Okay, so I guess it's kind of an evolution of a thing. He started as a hero, and he is the main character, so there's plot armor involved in his career, right? Mm-hmm. But you do ask a very good question. I mean, but by that time, he was Commander Solo, or Commander Skywalker, wasn't he? Which is, in the Star Wars ranking system, is above Captain.
So he moved up fast.
He did.
I mean, he did shoot the,
He blew up the Death Star.
Yeah, I mean, it's a little minor thing.
That must count for something, I suppose. That's at least 2 or 3 ranks.
Plus nepotism.
Nepotism,
Yeah.
yes.
He thought he just didn't know it yet.
He got a job from a sister he didn't know he had.
Yeah. Mm-hmm. Which is a little disturbing earlier in the movie when they kiss.
Right.
Yeah. Yes. See, that's the
Incest
thing
is
that
best.
That's the
Keeps it in the
spoilers.
family.
Oh boy! See, that's the big Star Wars reveal from Return of the Jedi that throws everybody into a tizzy when they stop and they're like, "Wait a second! Didn't he have the hots? He had the hots for her."
Which makes you know that they didn't plan that
Right.
in the first couple movies, because
Right.
it was almost a romantic triangle, and
Yes.
then she's trying to make Han jealous, and so when Lucas wrote Star Wars and now Empire Strikes Back came out, he wasn't planning on making Luke and Leia sisters.
No.
Not
Sisters?
Sisters.
Siblings?
Yeah, well, there's another secret.
Luke's actually a girl?
That's why Luke doesn't have any children.
Luke's been trans all along, so that's all good there.
He's with the times.
So the adventure continues in this Star Wars sequel. Luke Skywalker, played by Mark Hamill, Han Solo, again, Harrison Ford, Princess Leia, Carrie Fisher, and Chewbacca, Peter Mayhew, face attack by Imperial forces and the AT-AT walkers on the ice planet. While Han and Leia escape in the Falcon, Luke travels to Dagobah in search of Yoda. Only with the Jedi Master's help will Luke survive when the dark side of the Force beckons him to the ultimate duel with Darth Vader, played by David Prowse and James Earl Jones. It was released May 21st of 1980. How old were you on May 21st? You and I were nine. We were both nine. So you were 7.
No, I was 8.
You were 8? Okay, so your birthday's after that.
My
Or before
birthday's,
that, I
my
mean.
birthday's in March.
Okay.
So you guys are
So you were
long on
8, we were 9, and Billy, you were what, 15?
14.
14, 15?
Yeah.
Okay. So we were still like, this is a kid's movie, because Lucas has always made it very clear this is a kid's movie, but we were old enough to understand a little bit more about it. I mean, you were probably a little bit more mature than the three of us.
No.
Well, that's within reason.
No, yeah.
Within reason.
At least he was older.
Sort of, yeah.
Directed by Irvin Kershner, story by George Lucas. The budget was $33 million.
Which Lucas bankrolled himself.
Yes, because he could. Because he was
He's the first one. Yeah.
Because I just thought that he did not want to give the rights to any major studio.
right.
Yeah.
And I think he stuck with that for the.
Yep.
I mean, it's always been a Lucasfilm kind of a thing until Disney took over the
Yeah,
sequel.
until he went with the upstart Disney Corporation.
Right,
Yeah,
Yeah.
that newcomer.
Little known.
It wasn't. He bankrolled the 18 million production himself, using a combination from the profits of Episode 4 and a bank loan.
That's amazing.
Yep.
I guess it paid off.
Well, you walk into a bank and you're like, I need a loan to make a movie, and they're looking at like, well, wait, what? And I'm like, I'm George Lucas and I made Star Wars. This is the Star Wars sequel. Okay, here, have the money. Have the money.
Yeah, after Star Wars came out, it was a little easier, I bet.
Yeah, I bet. Yeah, absolutely. I mean, he had just slept for the first one, so the second one, not so much.
Right.
I like how. I mean, the first movie, we talked about it a little bit last week, where even Billy makes the mention that the first couple sequences he doesn't really remember. I mean, they stand out, but they don't stand out. The story itself takes some time to really kind of get its traction and then off and running. This one dives right in. This one is boom. We're on Hoth. We're preparing for an attack. We're working on the base. We're understanding that at any moment something is about to happen, and their urgency, you could feel it throughout the entire building of the first couple of sequences.
We know the characters already.
We do too. That's
know
a
the
plus.
characters, and Hoth to me is visually sort of arresting. It's I can still picture it in my head. The Wampa, who I like to now refer to as Bumble, because he looks like the abominable snowman in Rudolph. The whole sequence, where Luke gets captured, and I'd always heard, and now I read this morning that it was a myth that they used the Wampa attacking Luke to
Cover the potential scar from
the car accident.
Yeah,
that
'cause
Mark Hamill had a car accident.
Right.
Now George Lucas says, no, it's just convenient.
Yeah.
I was planning on doing that anyway, and no, he could have just had his facial scars from being a rebel.
Right, for 3 years at
Yeah.
that point.
Yeah.
So,
And it
Commander
says that,
Skywalker.
The car crash was in January 1977, but by the time the movie began filming in 79, Mark Hamill did not have any of the visible scars. So,
Okay.
So yeah, again, you were saying it was more of a myth than anything else, but
Yeah.
it was a good story for people to chat about.
But it was literally a myth I believed until yesterday or today.
I mean, it was recently
Yeah.
that he debunked it. It's so that urban myth it stuck around for quite a long. That's all, folks. Okay.
Myth. Yes.
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 now do you know why they did the battle on the ice planet
No, tell
and
me.
not in space?
I'm looking forward to hearing this.
George Lucas decided that the battle on an ice planet was necessary because he felt that it was easy to cheat in space because the background was black and you could hide errors easily. So therefore, with the white background, the effects crews would have to work so much harder and the effects would be much more impressive.
So the reasoning that the opening sequence was on an ice planet is that George Lucas is a dick. Got it.
Maybe that's your interpretation of that, but
He thought it'd be cool.
Yeah,
Yeah.
well, you know.
oh boy,
Yeah, well.
it's gonna be a day.
You give me the toys, I'm going to play with them. What the hell?
But I guess they filmed that in Norway.
Yes.
Yes.
And I guess there was a scene where right after Luke escapes from the cave, where he's running through the snow. I guess they literally just
Yes.
opened the hotel
Doors.
Right. They're
and
all
the
in the
crew was
hallway.
in the hallway.
Yeah, and he is out in the snow.
Wow.
I remember hearing that story. Yeah, yeah.
I just saw it. I don't know where it is.
Yeah.
And but I also thought it was interesting. It was an interesting balancing act because the first part of the first movie was on Tatooine, so hot sand. Second movie, cold and snow, and it was really not much of a balance until you get to the third movie, which is now around Endor. Nice, beautiful jungle, foresty planet. Yay!
But Tatooine, Tatooine, Tatooine is used in 6 of the movies.
Yes. It becomes that Force Central kind of. We actually joked about this playing our Star Wars game because we were talking about picking random planets on like Tatooine. You know, all the interesting shit happens on Tatooine. It's a
True.
force. It's a force
Apparently
hub.
it does. Yes.
It's a force hub. Anyway, so we're into the action right off the bat, and it's interesting to me because the whole sense of it is that they are still setting up their base. They're talking about finishing up this project, working on this particular project, and they should be able to settle in. And immediately the Empire shows up, and they're like, "Oh crap! Well, I guess we got to break everything down and take off again." And so it's you get that frustration level. You can sense the urgency. You can sense how they really are on the run, and they're never given a chance to really breathe.
So the speeders, they weren't called snow speeders in the movies. They were called speeders, weren't they?
Yeah, they were speeders, and they had to be adapted to the cold. So they were not
Right.
built to be snow speeders.
Right.
Even though they're marketed afterwards as
Yes.
snow speeders.
Snow speeders.
Right.
Yes, I love the snow speeder. I had still have the big plastic snow speeder from way back then. And
From who made them all the time? It was Kenner. Kenner.
Kenner?
Was
we should know because it was in the
The
toys
that made us.
Yes, it was
the toys that made us. We did that.
the small toy company at the time called, I think it was Kenner, wasn't it?
Kenner.
Yeah. And they took the risk.
And boy, did that pay off for
Yes.
them.
But yeah, so it's just speeders. That's why I was like, I thought they were called snow speeders, but they just called them the speeders and they adapted them to the snow. So they never were used anywhere else.
No, you never see them again.
Yeah, just
They left them all behind.
with harpoon guns.
I thought that was interesting. Why would you do that? What was the whole methodology? What was the whole thinking of a harpoon gun in the back end of the the vehicle?
And that's what the person in the back. All he did was a harpoon.
was
gun,
the
wasn't
harpoon
it?
gun. That was it. It's like, wait, so are you anticipating being attacked by AT-ATs on a regular basis?
Right. He's facing backwards. He's got a harpoon gun and a flying craft that has laser guns in the front
Yes.
that were pretty ineffectual against. How come once one of the AT-ATs fell down, you could blow it apart with one hit, but when they're standing, you can't?
Probably because you were able to get into that little chink of the armor that you could
Yes.
actually see at that
Yes.
point.
You had special lasers that had something called plot targeting system.
Oh.
Yes.
You know how there was that special
The Achilles heel.
of the Death Star in the first movie?
Yes.
That's what the AT-ATs have.
Yes,
When
that's it
they're- When they're
exactly.
down on their knees, they blow up easier than on their feet.
Yes.
Well, there's a lot of things that can say that.
Oh, whoa!
Well,
I
we
can't
would-
reach the button.
We went down. We went down that road fast.
It's Chris.
You're not helping with saying stuff like that. You're not helping me at all. Like,
Actually, maybe the boom chicka boom boom music.
I know, seriously, we need one of those buttons to be like. There we go.
It's closest I got right now.
That's
but
it's all we got.
Can you program other things into those buttons?
I can, yes.
Oh, okay.
Okay.
I might have to do it for
Down.
next time.
Well, you'll have to do that for episode 6.
6.
Ah,
Anyway,
yes. So where were we
I
again?
have no idea anymore.
Okay, we were talking about it being filmed in Norway.
Okay, yes, no.
I just want to take a quick moment to say that I love how the fact that we're trying this whole new focused format. It's working out so well for us. Right?
Hey, we're still on Empire Strikes
Yeah,
Back.
I know,
Yeah,
seriously.
At least
pretty
we
good.
haven't started talking about Flash Gordon or something.
You know, I do like the fact
Savior of the universe.
Oh, are these open yet?
No, but you,
I'm just gonna
Those
open
are,
up these Reese's White mini peanut butter cups. I'm just gonna sit here quietly. Oh,
that's not very quiet.
Okay, Norway.
Norway. The only way to get to the set in the midst of a blizzard during filming in Norway was on a snowplow train, which had a giant auger on the front pushing the snow to deliver the actors to the set. The weather conditions were so severe that the crew put the camera in the back door of the hotel the cast and crew were staying in and shot from out the door 12 feet from the hotel out in the blizzard. And that's what Billy was referring to in regards to Mark Hamill.
Yeah.
Couldn't let the cameras freeze.
Right. And
The actors, that's optional.
Yeah, it doesn't matter. Yeah.
And Carrie Fisher didn't do any outdoor scenes in Return.
No,
Empire. But she traveled to Norway, even though she was not scheduled to take part in any scene. She did it in order to spend time with the cast and crew.
Because that's Carrie Fisher.
Yeah.
She was
So-
amazing.
Yep.
There's somebody who I would love to have met. That's on my regret list. But anyway.
There's a lot of them. Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah, it's a very long list, yes. But yeah, I mean, that's the kind of thing she would do. She would show, and it was funny because when they did the tribute, when she passed away and they did the tribute video of her, I thought it was probably the best tribute video I've ever seen because the music was uplifting, right? I don't know if you've ever seen it. I'll show it to you later. I'll put a link up so that Dan can put it up with this one. But they did this series of clips, and that woman, dead on, even in the press tour for Force Awakens and Last Jedi, she knew the plea to Obi-Wan speech, the whole thing. She could recite it at the drop of a hat. Mark would say she remembered all of her lines from the original movies, plural, period, all of them. She could go into scenes in Empire, scenes of Return of the Jedi, and just start rattling off Leia's lines as if it was just, I'm going to be
Casual conversation.
Yeah, casual conversation, and she was going to be able to do it like she's on set right now doing it, and it was amazing. She just had a great ability to do that sort of thing. But yeah, she reached out, and she was always connecting with folks and making them feel like they were a part of something. And I thought that was, she really was the princess that held the whole thing together. So.
And actually, while we're talking about Carrie Fisher, also, because I'm a big Kevin Smith fan,
Right.
She was in Jane Silent Bob Strike Back.
Yes.
And I've read about her at the time. she had gone through her substance abuse issues, and at the time, Jason Mewes was having issues.
Yeah.
And I guess she took him. She became like a motherly figure to him.
That's amazing.
To try and help him,
Right?
And she was. I guess they really bonded, and
That's
and he was
fantastic.
she was really an influence on him cleaning up.
That's great.
Yeah.
That is a great story. I remember she was on a talk show that Kevin Smith had several years ago. He had this it was a specials. He would find it on.
The Hulu show.
The Hulu
Was it
show.
Yeah. Spoilers.
Yeah, and when he knew she was going to be on, instead of the usual big comfy chair for the guest, he had a massive throne built for her. Right, so here she is, this tiny little Carrie Fisher, all curled up with her legs under her, and just sitting there, all nice and casual. I don't know if she had Gary at the time or not, her dog, but there she is. She looked even smaller in the size of this chair, but she had this enormous personality, right?
Definitely.
And you could tell the reverence that he had for this
Yeah,
woman.
he loved her as a little kid. He was this big Star Wars nerd with all the toys.
Oh, yeah, that's
and
what
still has his collection from his actual kid, where he letters he wrote to her and stuff like that.
Oh yeah,
So,
Kevin is seriously a spirit
yeah.
animal, man.
So-
He's amazing. He's amazing. I'd love to meet him sometime soon.
Yeah.
He'll have him on the podcast.
Thought about her multiple times a day.
Yes.
Yeah.
It was-
There was that clip. Yeah, I forgot what it was. We were just talking about that, weren't we? Why is that fresh in my head right now?
Because I sent it to you earlier
Okay,
today.
that's okay. That's what you were-
She's on a interviewing with the Graham Norton. Was it Graham Norton show?
Graham Norton.
With Daisy Ridley, and Carrie Fisher was passing on to Daisy how boys would think about her every day for years, multiple times a day. Something for Daisy to look forward to.
Yes. Please take that inference as you see fit. All right, so Norway.
No way.
What does Norway? About 15 pounds.
Love it. I can love it. All right, what's our next piece of trivia you wanted to talk about? Because I see you looking at the list right now. I'm trying to dissuade us from focusing on
Oh my God.
the wrong things.
Okay, so if we're talking
Or
about
is it the right thing?
Norway,
Yes.
the sound of the snow swirling on Hoth was produced by recording surf sounds and then alternating, increasing and decreasing the volume.
They really did. They were innovative beyond just normally what you would think for a movie. the Foley artists and the sound effects folks, what they did to go out and get the noises of the various ships and the various, and the environmental stuff. It was amazing what they did.
Did you see how they make the ships, the models?
Yes.
Like they took pieces from other models and put them together to make them look like this. And it's just amazing. I watched the Props to History.
Oh, right. Props to History on TikTok, yeah.
And he talks about them. They took this part from this model and this part from this model and this part and this model, and somehow they made it, another ship or a lightsaber.
It's like what you talk about, where you just take Legos and put them together. You didn't need sets. You just did whatever you felt like with them.
What looked right at the moment.
built. Right.
You come up with an idea in your head and you find the pieces to make the idea work. That was kind of a thing.
Right. And I figured they must have made them the pieces, but no, they took pieces from other things.
So, they would be more custom in the later movies because you had CGI, you had artists that were more invested in that type of a thing. You had the ability to do it, you had the tools. But the first 3 movies were really kit bashed to high hell. Yep. There was a guy who has a YouTube series, and he was going in about the business, and we'll talk more about this in Return of the Jedi, in the big fleet scene when they're about to attack the second Death Star. Oh, spoilers, sorry.
Oh, no, I never saw.
I know, my God. How he would pick ships out of the background in the Rebel fleet and kind of figure out what made them up. And he would start showing. And then apparently he had a connection in the model builders crew from Lucasfilm. So he'd be like, am I close? And be like, yeah, wow, not bad. Yeah, that's what we did.
Wow.
Has happened on a couple of occasions.
That's impressive that people can pick out that kind of stuff. Yeah, the sound effects. So the crazy sound effects.
Yeah.
Take this sound, let's speed it up or slow it down and do this to it or this.
They apparently spent an entire afternoon when they were making the first Star Wars. They spent an entire afternoon at an air show recording all of the vintage World War II planes.
Wow.
And the planes that were flying overhead. And then mutating and molding. And like the Millennium Falcon is based on a P-51.
Amazing.
On a Mustang or something like that. There's the foundation of it, the engine noise. The attention to detail. And finding the simple ways to do things. Like now, they would probably spend $1 million to generate a whole bunch of different sounds. But back then, they spent a couple of tickets on an air show and went and recorded with a tape deck.
I was watching a TikTok earlier today about a guy, a sound professional, who's taking Bohemian Rhapsody and changing it. And the stuff, it's amazing the stuff they can do. I hated the end result of it because it just didn't sound right. Right. Because it sounded, but it's just amazing what they can take, even like from a song from 30 years ago, whatever, 40 years ago.
50.
And just, that long?
Yeah.
Oh my gosh. And just change the sound and just doing this and just amazing the technology that's involved today.
One person with a computer,
but
and
back
they're off
then,
and running. Yeah,
they went to an air show and they took the sound and they did something with it. It's like, oh my gosh.
And I think I would love to do an episode where we just talk about Foley artists and sound effects and stuff like that. I think it'd be great to kind of talk about the artistry that these people
they were truly artists
created
back then to be able
to make the things happen the way they did.
I mean, it like harkens back to old time radio, where it was theater of the mind, and there were people whose jobs was to create all the noises that you heard on the Jack Benny show
live in
Green
the background.
Hornet,
Somebody doing whatever it was.
Yeah.
So I mean, that's an evolution from there's the foundation of it, and the evolution is all the way to what we have today. But along the way, Lucasfilm, and the LucasArts folks, this is what they did to make things happen. I thought it's fantastic. It is very impressive. Fascinating is the word I was looking for.
Fascinating.
And also,
Impressive.
Empire Strikes Back, as I rewatched it Friday, it reminded me that those early movies felt like movies from the 50s in some aspects. I mean, the technology and it's still not what it is today, but it was amazing to see the battle on Hoth and the flight through the asteroid belt and everything after, the fight scene with Darth and Luke. But still the chemistry between Han and Leia.
Oh, yeah.
That's like a 50s romantic comedy.
Oh, absolutely. Absolutely. It's right up there with all of the classics, Bogart and Bacall and Spencer Tracy and
Cary Grant and Katharine Hepburn.
Oh, absolutely. And it's great because for me, Harrison Ford has always been that wonderful curmudgeon. Even back in the original days, there were scenes where it just felt like he was just phoning it in. I'm going to say it. But he did it in such a cool style that you forgave him for it. Mm-hmm. You know, there were times where he's just like, he's not into it. He's just doing it, right? But he had this way of delivering it and being that presence on screen. And of course, he's as tall as I am. He's like 6'3", 6'4", if I remember correctly. So and then, Mark Hamill's a very average height dude, and Carrie Fisher was so small. Mm-hmm. So he has this presence that's only overshadowed by Vader, who's supposed to be this imposing thing, and Chewie, who's, a mutant, he's 7.5 feet tall. So he has a presence, and he kind of like would walk his way through it. And it was funny how Mark and Han and Luke were supposed to be best friends after a while, and I never really got that vibe. It was more like they were the guys who they leaned on each other. They were like buddy cops.
Yeah,
they were partners.
They were friends because they had to be.
Yeah, and they were partners because
they worked together.
Yeah, they worked together. But I didn't see him as like they would not go out of their way for each other.
They weren't bosom buddies or anything like that.
Exactly. They were not like the blood brothers kind of a thing. But with Carrie Fisher, and this is the reason I brought this up, you could see that chemistry between the two of them. Mm-hmm. You hinted at it, and I know there's always the stories behind the scenes that Harrison Ford and Carrie Fisher had a little fling going on behind the scenes. But you do see chemistry between the two characters, and it was like Leia was the only one who could get Han to really kind of connect. And so you can take that on several different levels, with actors, the actors' approaches, the story itself. But I do see that as not just the two actors, Carrie Fisher and Harrison Ford, but the characters and the way they were written. There was that she was the only one who could actually pull him out of this kind of like loner shell and make him into something else.
Make him part of the group as someone who cared.
Right. And I thought that was cool. It added a whole lot of different flair to it. And I will always love Harrison Ford. I don't mean to disparage him, but there is a way you look at his stuff and you're like, huh. Like his cameo in The Expendables, it was like anybody could have done that part.
It may just be his acting style.
Yeah, but because it's why he appeals to people too, because he has this very stoic, very easy, very very calm kind of like going through the step of it.
Mm-hmm. I mean, because I read, and actually I didn't know this, one of the reasons he wound up in Carbonite in Empire was because that he didn't sign on for the third movie yet.
Yeah.
Right? They didn't know if he was going to be back or not.
Right.
So if he wasn't, well...
They had their out already.
Yeah, because Harrison Ford wanted Solo to die at the end of this movie, and he did not want to play the character again. So instead of killing the character off, Lucas had a different idea and opted for Han to be frozen in Carbonite, just in case Ford had a change of heart, and it had agreed.
Mm-hmm. And the funny thing is, even after they killed him off, he still kept coming back.
Yeah. Well, I think that's what made the cameos that he had after Force Awakens more interesting is by virtue of the fact you didn't expect them. Mm-hmm. You don't expect those moments to happen because he's good. He's fine.
I'm done.
I'm finally done with this nonsense once and for all. And but then he kept coming back willingly. It was amazing.
Yeah.
So, and I would never deign to try and interview Harrison Ford because he's horrible in an interview. He
is.
He just wants to be an actor. He wants to go do the job, get paid, go home and do what he wants to do. I don't want to talk about it. I don't want to, I don't want to have to analyze it. I just did it.
I hear he's a big time stoner too.
Really? I wouldn't doubt it.
Yeah.
I wouldn't doubt it. But and his wife, Callista Flockhart.
Flockhart, the skinniest woman in America.
She is tiny. I wonder if that's part of her appeal is that she reminds him of Carrie Fisher.
Maybe.
Because she is so small, comparatively speaking. Mm-hmm. But anyway. So there was a tangent. That was a tangent.
It was a tangent, but on topic.
But we stayed on topic. It was an on-topic tangent.
Stay on topic.
It was an on-topic tangent. That's amazing. All right, so from Norway, where did we go? We went to Dagobah and
I met him in a swamp down in Dagobah, where it babbles all the time like a giant carbonated soda. S-O-D-A soda.
I love it. I
saw the little runt sitting there on a log.
I asked him his name, and in a doggerel voice, he said, Yoda. Y-O-D-A, Yoda.
And they're off and running. That's awesome. They're channeling their inner Weird Al Yankovic.
I lifted some rocks. I stood.
You listened to this morning, didn't you?
Yeah.
Oh, that's awesome.
That's great.
Oh, boy.
That is great. That's fantastic.
Now Weird Al's going to sue us.
No, we're just going to get banned. We're going to get blocked in
North Korea.
North Korea, Syria, Iran, and
We've got blocked in North Korea for nothing.
yes.
I don't even know what they
It was amazing too because it happened immediately upon posting the thing.
it was our Chris, it was our show.
Yeah, it was our Dan and Chris episode.
We had no music in there, nothing that we didn't own because I played our dude tape in there.
Yeah.
And somehow we got banned for some other weird thing.
It was a copyright infringement because you played that clip from Dude Tape 14 Part 2, and in the background was that Enya music, and I think that's what.
Oh, is that what it was?
That's
Was
what
it in
bit
the,
you.
oh, that's right. It was in the background.
It was the back. You had music in the
I
background.
forgot it was in the background.
So it was a recording of a recording of a recording that we replayed, and they got us for it.
So now we know North Koreans love Enya.
Yes.
I forgot about the background because I was just focusing on we are speaking for people.
And that's funny because every time we've gotten one of our episodes blocked on YouTube, it was being blocked only in those select countries. So these countries that we would consider, not important to us anyway. We can.
I don't think we have a big viewership there.
We don't have a big viewership in North Korea, but the fact that North Koreans are going out of way to block us, I love that. That's a selling point in my opinion.
Let me see. Blocked in Cuba, Iran, North Korea, and Syria. So
Nice.
if you wanted to hear it there, sorry.
Yeah.
I'm sorry for those people out there.
Send you bootlegs.
Yeah.
But apparently, Storms in Africa was the song. I forgot that it was playing.
When Hubie does his retrospection,
Yeah.
and then you jump in on the retrospective in the background, you're playing Enya.
I completely forgot that he was playing because I
Yep.
just focused on the voices.
That's funny.
Thank you. All right, but it was literally like 7
That's an
minutes.
off-topic tangent.
It was,
wasn't it?
7 minutes after we posted it. They
Holy
nailed it.
cow.
Yeah.
That's pretty quick.
Yeah, I
they
was
nailed us
impressed.
pretty quick for it. That was funny. So yeah, we're not very popular in North Korea, or maybe we could be, but the government doesn't want us.
Government's holding us down, man.
Yeah.
We're subversives in North Korea. All right, let's go back.
We're
to
on
the movie.
Dagobah now.
We're on Dagobah and
It's a
Bespin.
very
Very swamped in Dagobah.
Because the movie was wholly on Hoth and then splits to Bespin and Dagobah. And I don't think it goes anywhere else because then when Luke leaves Dagobah, he goes to Bespin. And that's pretty much where everything kind of winds up. But you see the party split, and in D&D, you always know you don't split the party. Okay, because bad things happen when you split the party.
And right before they split the party, Luke is on the medical ship.
Right.
This is after he kisses Leia, and then he leans back and puts his hands behind his.
Well, Leia kissed him.
Leia kissed him.
He's
and
all
then-
like smooth. Look
and
at
then
that.
he put his arms behind his head, which is reminiscent throwback to how Chewbacca
You're
did
right.
it
Sure.
in
During their
the
chess match.
in the chess match.
the hollow chest.
That's right. Yeah.
But while they were on the Dagobah, if Mark Hamill when he was having trouble with the Dagobah scenes with Yoda, Frank Oz brought in Miss Piggy to make him laugh during that. And
I gotta
from
love
what I
the Muppets.
understand, another piece of trivia is when Luke hits his head on the ceiling of the hut. That happened 12 times before the take actually was the one that they liked.
So he kept cranking his head on
head-
that on the ceiling. Oh my god!
Yeah.
The things you do for art.
I'm telling you.
Let's see. The scenes where R2-D2 was submerged in the mud pool were shot in Lucas's unfinished swimming pool. Most of the crew were hidden under the water, and the entire sequence was shot by George Lucas.
Good God.
I hope Kenny Baker wasn't in the suit at that.
I don't know. There was 8 R2-D2 suits, and Kenny Baker used 2 of them that were the lightest.
Okay.
I mean, that's that attention to detail that you don't see in a lot of places now. Yeah, I mean, J.J. Abrams made a point of saying that the sequel trilogy would be made with several more practical effects than we're used to, not as much CGI, and you do see it, but and we'll talk more about it when we get to the sequel trilogy down the road. It really felt to me that it was like, oh look, we did a practical effect. Aren't you happy for us? Where this was more of attention to detail. We want it to be done right. We want to really show off what we can make happen to help you disconnect and suspend disbelief so that you can just enjoy what's going on in front of you.
Whereas back in the day, it was
necessity.
practical effects, models. AT-ATs. I'm assuming were just like
Stop motion.
stop motion
Stop motion
models.
animation. I mean,
Yep.
you could tell. Yeah, I mean, we're raised during stop motion animation era. Harryhausen.
Harryhausen, yeah.
And everything that is related to stuff that he created. When you see the AT-ATs moving, you can tell that's a stop motion animation. That's a practical effect. That's a model that's being moved frame by frame by frame by frame. And
Except towards the end of that battle, it was caught in real time, and pyrotechnics were used in order to capture all of that. So that was like the only time was that it wasn't stop motion. It was like towards the end of that when the AT was being blown up.
Right. It was funny way back when I was a small kid, and there was a day where I was small. I would take summer classes at the museum, and one of them was a filmmaking class for beginners. I was like 9-10 years old. And the teacher used Legos and the little Lego guys to teach us stop motion animation. And it was amazing. We made this little Lego movie. It was about 3 or 4 minute long, where we're using the fishing wire to pull cars along the thing without being seen as so we'd give them some sense of automation. Being able to use the pegs so that the little minifigures would be able to stand up and move through the scene. And it was choppy because they're not very flexible as opposed to a wax figure on a wire frame. But it was fun to get that basic idea of what it would take to really kind of make that come to life. So you learn an appreciation at an early age with that kind of a thing. And then we learned, like I said, we were exposed to all of the original horror movies and fantasy movies.
The Christmas specials.
Yeah, the Christmas specials. Well, the puppets and
Rankin Bass Christmas specials.
Yeah,
and
absolutely. So you see that's all.
Gumby and Davy and Goliath.
And that was just natural.
And there are movie houses that still try to bring that. I mean, like what's the Wallace and Gromit?
Oh yeah.
Right, that's all stop motion stuff, and that's fantastic.
Chicken Run, I think.
Chicken Run was in there. Yeah, those chickens are organized.
Oh, yeah, here it is. The Imperial AT-AT walkers were all animated through the traditional Go motion techniques, except for the scenes where they fall, where the walker's tripped up by cables and falls on its head, or the one in which Luke throws a thermal detonator which falls on its side. These were filmed in real time on high-speed cameras with precision-timed mini pyrotechnic charges.
Now that's artistry. That's precision. Yep. That's something you really... you're practicing something. You're not just coding something in and hoping for the best. You're not debugging something. Right. That's guys that are really, and girls. I'm sorry for being so specific there. That were involved in making that happen. That was cool. I want to watch the movie again.
They had to do it at the time. They couldn't just go back. Yeah, and the editing floor, go back to the computer, and just tweak that a little bit right there. What they use today.
Get it right once. We got get it right the first time.
Yeah, got to get it right the first time.
Because we're blowing the thing up at the end. So
yeah. So let's talk about the Dagobah arc. We'll talk about the adventures of Luke Skywalker on Dagobah and meeting Yoda, and I think it was great because here you are in 1980, and you're being shown something that on a much grander scale we're dealing with in society today. Luke had an impression of who Yoda was in his head, a great warrior. So he's thinking of some big strapping dude who's probably a little gray around the edges, but is going to be like this powerful presence, and completely just bypasses this little green guy with the big ears and the funny speech. Just completely ignores the fact that this guy could be powerful, that this guy could be wise, or be an educator or a trainer of any. Just completely ignores it, and suddenly has his eyes open to the fact that size matters not. And don't judge by how something looks. Just you can't discount it. You have to take it all in. You have to be open to possibilities. And I remember from an early age, as Yoda is training Luke, and Luke is just being this whiny, frustrated kid. I'm like, from an early age, I'm like, that wouldn't have been me. I would have failed, sure, but I would have been like, all right, let's do it again. What do I do now? What do I do now? How do I do it better? And I'd get frustrated, sure, but I wouldn't be like, it's impossible. I can't do that. I always wanted to smack Luke Skywalker across the back of the head. Like, what are you doing?
You want to go to Tashi Station for power converters. Yeah.
Lazy bitch.
So he was 18 in the first movie. So he's 21 here. So he's seen some battle, but still he's still kind of uncertain of who he is and what he is, and so he's got to confront that.
So when Attack of the Clones comes out and you see Hayden Christensen as Anakin Skywalker in that first scene,
now you see where
you're like, oh, so whiny bitch is a bloodline thing. Got ya. Okay.
The apple doesn't fall too far from the tree. Got it.
But yeah, I remember it was a first time for me that I could look at the hero and I wanted to root for the hero, but I could also see myself in the place of, not only in the place of the hero, but doing it better than the. I'm like,
Because there were times where Luke was sort of human C-3PO.
right, prissy little whiny piece of what the hell. I think the older I got, the more I look back at it, I'm like, I could have pulled that X-wing out of the swamp. It would have taken me a couple tries. I would have screwed it up a few times, but
Once you saw it move, you keep on trying.
yeah, yeah. If I can make it move, I'm bringing that damn thing up.
Right.
You know me. When I put my teeth into something, it's over. So it was so weird to see how that whole thought pattern unfurled, because you also got the sense that, wow, Luke really is in danger right now, because he wants to do the right thing, but he doesn't want to do the work to get to the right thing. He
wants a shortcut.
he could potentially fall. You see that.
The shortcut is the dark side.
You see that lure, that pull, that like, oh, he really could become a bad guy in all of this. And I knew that was back and forth, that they were talking about that on several occasions, where they might show Luke pull a turn somewhere along the line for a bit and then redeem himself and then redeem Vader or something along those lines. But I don't know. I just that whole Dagobah sequence, I always wondered how if I were personally Luke Skywalker myself, how would that have gone?
If you were George Lucas, would you have written it the same way? Did it fit into the overall plot of the movie?
At the time, when I was 13, 14 and learning how to be a story writer myself, I would have, because that's hubris, right? That's the arrogance of a creative teenager thinking he could do the job better than who already did it. And so I would have made Luke less whiny. I would have made him more determined. I would have made him, try harder to be successful and accept what he was doing. But now, and I was just hinting at it a moment ago, you look back at it and you're like, wow, you really needed that uncertainty. You really need to be like, no, Luke, what are you doing? Come on, you're a moron. You need that to kind of like be able to pull back and look at the story and go, in the greater scheme of things, you would not have the successful future Jedi Master if he had not been dancing both sides of the line for a moment there.
And it left open the possibility he could fail because he's
Right.
not doing it right. So
Yeah.
you wasn't sure at the end.
I pulled up the trivia regards that the sequence in which Luke Skywalker engages the fake Darth Vader in a lightsaber duel in the dark side cave was filmed in slow motion in order to make it dramatic and horrifying, as it shows that Luke learns that he is not far from turning to the dark side.
Right. When the face mask blows
Comes
away
off
and he
and he
sees his own
sees
face,
right.
which apparently was Mark Hamill. They built the set. They couldn't figure out how to get a good proper mask of him for the Darth Vader helmet. So he decapitates Vader's head in this slow-mo battle on Dagobah, and the head is supposed to there, and the face mask blows off, and he's supposed to see an image of his own face. But they couldn't make the face mask work so it was convincing enough to look like. So it's actually him under a floor piece, sticking his head up into this busted mask, looking as wide-eyed and dead as possible. So
Well, it worked.
practical effects, man.
Exactly.
See, now they would have done that with CGI, and it would have been a lot easier on everybody. But they put the detail work in,
Right.
Or in the words of John Lovitz, acting.
Acting. We are thespians.
Oh boy. He was the during the Dagobah scenes, he was the only person on the call sheet as an actor. Everyone else was crew.
Wow.
Oh, I guess that makes sense because
Yeah,
it was him and
that's
Yoda. So
Yeah.
Frank Oz is
Crew.
the only other.
He's crew
It's
in that
crew.
movie. Yeah.
Yeah.
And Kenny Baker, I don't even think showed up in the R2 suit for that one.
Yeah, because with regards to the 8 R2 suits, 2 Kenny Baker used that were lighter than the ones from A New Hope. 3 were ones that were dented and banged and things like that would run into stuff. And then 3 of them were controlled remote control. So, and I just saw that the swamp creature that tries to eat R2
yeah.
D2 did not have a name in the movie, but was given a name in the video game,
Okay.
and it was Hagobad. Hagobad.
Hagobad.
Hagobad.
He go bad.
Dagobah. It's an
Which is anagram for Dagobah.
Dagobah. Hagobad. Dagobah. Okay.
But he go bad.
He go bad.
Hagobad.
They go my ego. So, and then, I think that, if Luke is more determined and wants to be successful more, then he's less likely to react to the vision he saw. he's less likely to leave Dagobah to try and rescue Han and Leia. Yeah, Han and Leia. I got that right for a change. Okay, that's
I'm
cool.
impressed that those X-wings can stay in the water so long and they work without a problem.
Isn't that a thing? That's amazing. You know.
And when Obi-Wan and Yoda were encouraging Luke to stay on Dagobah and to stop the training, the snake that Luke pulls out of the cockpit or whatever of the X-wing, he actually was bit by it. Even though it was harmless, he actually was bit by it on set when he was pulling the stuff out. That was another piece of trivia that was
the engine
there.
intake there.
Yeah.
Yeah, sturdy things, those X-wings. Because then that very X-wing gets, if you follow it all the way to the sequel trilogy, spent 30 years in an ocean.
Right, and it still works after
And it
that.
still worked just fine after that.
Yeah, come on.
Well, it's sealed against the pressures of space, so it
Maybe
should be
it's
able to
just
handle a little water.
sealed with the Force.
Yeah, that's it. Okay. Sure.
They built things to last back then.
Yeah, even better than stuff today.
They are definitely not built by Tesla. So
And one piece of information I didn't want to Google or Wikipedia. I just wanted. Did George Lucas hire Billy D. Williams because he felt they needed a black guy? And
I'd wonder. I mean, we talked about it last week where Billy D. Williams was up for the Han Solo part, so he was always on George Lucas's radar. So I always wonder if he cast Lando, Billy D. as Lando because he wanted the guy in. He liked the guy. He wanted to have that actor in the movie and have a fairly integral part. But is Billy D. Williams also the token black guy? Which I don't know.
Back then happened more.
It did happen more often. I mean, it was more of a kind of a passing thing.
But maybe he brought some Colt 45 and
don't see. You're making it worse. You're making it worse, man. I wonder though because there was a tremendous amount of diversity implied in Lucas's vision. The Empire was very uniform. It was all white British guys basically, right? And I think that kind of uniformity was supposed to be part of the story. It was not meant to be a slight to anybody else, but it was meant to indicate that the Empire this is the Empire's thing. It's idiom. It looks uniform. It looks identical. All the stormtroopers were dehumanized by having the same outfit. But then the quote unquote other side of life, the good guys and everything else, were a wide variety of everybody. Aliens came in all shapes and sizes, and you saw that outside of the Empire. Outside of the Empire, you saw all of the different races and the different aliens and different looks. I don't know if Billy D. Williams was just the token black guy, but I think there was a much better reason that Lucas brought him on board.
Well, Yaphet Kotto was offered the role of Lando Calrissian initially, but he turned it down because he believed that he would be killed off and it would be difficult for him to find work after that. And because I didn't know the name, so I clicked it.
oh yeah, Yaphet Kotto. He's been in a lot of stuff.
He was in Alien, the
That's
original
right,
movie.
Yep.
Yeah, as one of the workers, and I've seen him in a ton of things.
Live and Let Die, Midnight Run.
Great character actor. He just passed away recently, if I remember
Yes.
correctly.
I think so.
Yeah, just within the past few months, if I think.
March 15th.
He was a hell of a guy, just an absolutely hell of a guy. But I don't know. That's a good question, and in today's society, we're prepared to talk about that a little bit better than in the past. We would ignore that as just like whatever, back in the '80s. But nowadays,
he was perfect for the role,
right? And it wasn't a throwaway part either.
No.
And he's had this longevity in that role as well.
And it's funny because Billy D. Williams has said that whenever he would pick up his daughter from elementary school, the children would start arguments with him. They accused him of betraying Han Solo.
Oh no. That's happened to a lot of actors. Like the kid who played Joffrey in Game of Thrones, he stopped acting. He gave up acting because he just was like
death threats and
Oh my
everything.
gosh.
he did such a great job with the part that people loathe the human as well as the character. It's like no, the actor's just acting, dude. Leave him alone.
But it shows how much people get into them.
Yeah.
I mean, it's just, you can't separate. It's hard to separate the actor from especially if that's the only part you know him in.
Right.
Like I never heard of him. The Game of Thrones guy. I never heard of him before. But that's so all you know about him is evil King Joffrey. There.
Right.
Just think about what bad guy pro wrestlers go through.
Oh, I know. People are accosting them on the street because they can't separate. Sorry, spoilers, but wrestling is scripted. Just saying.
It is?
It is.
Oh my god.
We did a whole podcast on that.
I don't think I was listening.
Tanya
Several.
wasn't listening.
I was there. I don't think I was listening.
So we talked about Dagobah a little bit. Let's talk about Bespin. How are we doing on recording time?
About 50 minutes.
50 minutes? We'll spend a little time on Bespin because that's going to take us up to the end of the movie, too. Again, like we say in D&D, you don't split the party. So here's Han, Leia, Chewie, C-3PO. C-3PO gets taken out as soon as they hit the Bespin.
He got really split.
I mean, I tell you. Are you having problems with your droid? Understatement of the damn century right there. The thing is in a basket. Poor C-3PO was in like 8 different pieces in a basket.
Yeah.
And Lando goes, having issues with your droid? Really, Captain Obvious?
No, he's just fine.
He's fine. He does that. It's his kung fu grip. We're just updating it. Yeah, it's great. But, you you get that sense of something has gone wrong right off the bat. Mm-hmm. And then when they get invited to tea there, and they open the door, and there's Vader at the other end of the table. And let me just say, I got to find this. I got to find that because there was this whole thing about Han.
Well, while they're doing that going into their Lando offers Leia his arm, and Leia accepts, and then Han goes to offer his arm to kind of play on the jealousy factor of it.
Yeah, you're seeing that whole relationship thing building. And I can't type on my phone for the life of me right now. I should have had this set up better.
That's okay. While you're looking at it, I also saw that the Cloud City was based on the Art Deco machine age posters of the 1920s and 30s.
Okay, I can see that. Mm-hmm. Just all the white, all the
Art Deco design.
Yeah,
machine age designs from the 1920s to the 1930s.
And I found what I was looking for, and I apologize. This next phrase is R-rated. Deal with it. There's a little bit of language involved. So Han's walking down the halls of Bespin with his old friend Lando. Leia's there, looking good. Han's thinking he's going to have some wine, maybe flirt a little bit, then back to the old guest quarters with her hotness. But doors open, and there's Darth Vader. Han doesn't look incredulously at Lando. He doesn't duck. He doesn't run away. What does Han do? He starts shooting at the motherfucker. He starts shooting. Be like Han. I think that said everything about the character too, because that's it. There was no second guessing. There was no stop and hesitation. He sees Vader. He pulls out his gun and he goes to town.
Doesn't do any good, but
doesn't
he does
do any good. But damn, I mean,
it
was a decision making process, and it happened in a split second. And there's you see Han Solo in a nutshell right there. Mm-hmm. Oh, it's about to go down. I'm in. You know, I thought that was amazing.
Yeah.
According to Billy D. Williams, Lando Calrissian betrayed Han Solo because he was trying to prevent the demise of Han Solo and his friends because he had no choice.
Right.
And that when you're dealing with Darth Vader and you know Lando did stand up to Darth Vader for about 2 seconds and realized that could be a huge mistake. But he had to devise something, so he had to come up with something in order to try and keep his situation going. So, which he finally ended up losing as a result anyway.
Yeah, that's... And it's so interesting to see how the characters they have their ebb and their flow, you know, and their motivations and whatnot. I don't know. Was there anything about Bespin you would have changed, Billy?
No.
The whole sequence?
No, I saw Empire Strikes Back when it first came out 3 or 4 times at the theater. Mm-hmm. And the first time, at the end where you're left, or basically the bad guys won.
Yeah.
You're like, no!
Yeah, seriously.
I must have missed something. I'm going to watch this again.
Like, is there more?
I remember being in the theater with my mother. My mom took me to see it in the theater the first time. And at one point, she has her hand on my chest, and she's like, do you want to leave? Are you okay? And she's whispering in my ear like, we can take off if this is too much for you. And apparently my heart was pounding, and I'm like gripping onto the chair, and I'm watching this whole thing unfurl. I'm like, oh my god, you know, because like you do when you're 9. You know?
Yeah. Mm-hmm.
But yeah, that's I think it's like one of those first times where you see a movie sequel, the bad guys win. Mm-hmm. You know, for the most part.
You know, now it's pretty common because there's going to be a sequel to the sequel.
Right.
And actually, even back then, as a wrestling fan I should have realized, of course, because there's always a point in wrestling where the bad guy wins. Mm-hmm. He's the champion, or has the upper hand on the good guy. He's in control of the feud, because you need the point where the good guy comes back and triumphs. Mm-hmm.
And that's because that's what we love. We love to see that underdog win.
You need the bad guy in control for from a minute, a week, a year, whatever. But you need the bad guy to have his victories for the good guys to mean anything.
Right, because if they just stampede from beginning to end, we're going to win now. We're the good guys. We're going to win now. Then you lose something in the process. And so this entire movie was just to change how cinema, in adventure cinema, sci-fi and fantasy and action stuff, how it was told. Because you never see anything like that before, and now you start seeing it since.
Because back then there were movie series, but there weren't many sequels. There was the James Bond series, but they were self-contained,
right?
And
separate adventures.
Goldfinger didn't reference Dr. No, and No Live and Let Die didn't reference.
There's a spider hanging right here, or right here.
Oh.
You got him?
Yeah.
He's jumping around my floor now. Yeah. I'll vacuum him up later.
Wow.
Flamethrower.
I saw Chris's
I
actual.
I saw this little black dot in the middle of the and I'm looking up and I'm like, what the hell is that? Does something fly? And then I see him climbing down his little web and I'm like, oh, okay. And I'm pointing right at it and it's in the middle of the table and poor Billy thinks I'm pointing past him, so he's looking up.
I know.
I'm
looking at
The rest of us are looking into your living room going, what?
Yeah. And I'm
Chris is seeing ghosts.
Is it a force ghost?
It could be.
It's a ghost.
Oh, no. It's a gorilla.
But there weren't many sequels. There were self-contained stories with the same characters, whether it was Tarzan or James Bond.
Yeah. And as far as kids' movies were concerned, think about what we had in the 70s. We had Herbie and Benji. I mean, they were all separate stories.
Yeah.
Right? They were each kind of like installments.
What are they going to do now? But in 2 hours, they come out on top. Right?
Yeah.
They always come out on top. Yeah.
Exactly. I mean, even the serials, the Flash Gordon serials, you had the occasional cliffhanger.
Yeah.
But, it really doesn't translate because that was the serials, not like the full-on big features. Mm-hmm. So this was the first real absolute cliffhanger in a movie.
Yeah, which is up to now. Up to Endgame and the Avengers movies.
Yeah, Infinity War was really your first kind of like cliffhanger in the MCU.
Yeah. Where the bad guy won.
Well, Harry Potter, the series, everybody just kind of like chunks right along, and it's wrapped up, and they go home at the end of the school year.
Yep.
The only time you have a cliffhanger is because the 7th book was turned into 2 movies.
Right.
Yeah.
And so I don't know if that really
that doesn't really count.
Counts.
No.
I really wouldn't consider that as counting. And we'll talk more about that when we hit the Harry Potter series
Caesar.
later in the season.
The Caesar.
Caesars. Hail Caesar. I like Caesar salads. Pizza. Anyway, so everything about Bespin is a ploy to get a hold of Luke's attention. And everything on Dagobah was trying to prepare Luke for what was going to come next, not realizing it was going to be as soon as Bespin. So the culmination of it is Han's in a block of carbonite. Okay, wonderful. Which leads to that iconic scene where Carrie, where Leia yells out, "I love you," and he says, "I know."
And that was not ad-libbed.
Nope, it was.
It was
It
that
was
bad.
not.
Well, it's the way it happens because the whole scene was written originally as "I love you, yes, I love you too."
No, the scene was written because I did find the trivia on that, and of course I just went past.
There's a whole
it.
story behind that.
Yeah, there is a story because Carrie Fisher did not know that the line had been changed. That's what was like possibly her reaction was ad-libbed, but there was like a longer thing, but he didn't know if he was going to be returning. So where is the?
See, I thought I just read within the last couple days that it had been written a couple different ways, and they told him say what you think is natural.
Well, the story that I'd heard, and this was just recently as well. I mean, I've heard the different versions of the story over the years, but they've always been kind of similar to each other. But the way I heard is that it was written in the original script. She yells out, "I love you." He says, "I love you back." And they tried it a couple of times, and it just wasn't fitting. It didn't feel right. And so they took a break. They went about their business. They worked on other scenes, and they went to come back to it. And before they came back to it, the story I heard is that Kirshner, the director, went to Harrison Ford and said, "Look, I know you're not feeling it. Do whatever. Do it. Just go with what comes naturally. Go with what you think is going to work. Say whatever you think is going to work." And Harrison Ford thought about it and said, "Okay, I think I got something." And they went and they ran it. And Carrie Fisher yells out, "I love you." And he looks at her and goes, "I know."
Yeah, I still can't.
And that was that. And it's iconic. It is iconic.
Right.
I mean, come on. I mean, I can't think of how many, boyfriend girlfriend situations I've seen over the years where the girl will say "I love you" and he turns around and goes "I know," and she swoons over it because she knows what he's channeling at the moment. I mean, it's adorable to watch, and
It was unexpected.
unexpected, and you
And
don't-
appropriate.
and appropriate for the character. It really was. It was him. And then of course then she gets to mirror it in Return of the Jedi when he goes, "I love you," and she's like, "I know."
Yeah, because he was supposed to say something along the lines, "Remember that because," or something, or
Some
other.
sappy, long
Yeah, some sappy
not
long.
monologue that
Something completely
and
not
possibly
Harrison
long
Ford,
for
like-
the time that they should have. And
Yeah, something completely not Harrison Ford-esque. And here we are, and then that's that. That's the end of that line, and then it's getting Leia and Chewie and R2 and what's left to C-3PO out of there, and then Lando double crosses the double cross,
right.
and tries to fix things after he's already irrevocably broken stuff, and that's that. It kind of starts wrapping up that whole part of that part of the story, and you're back to the inevitable confrontation, Luke and Vader, and leading to that completely iconic moment.
Another one.
You know, where I remember seeing an interview with James Earl Jones, and Lucas is sitting down with the script, and the original scripted line in the original script was Obi-Wan killed your father, right? But that was always meant to be a decoy. From the moment Lucas started writing Empire Strikes Back, this was the moment he was looking forward to the most. But in all of the scripts, because secrecy was such a thing, he wanted Vader to say Obi-Wan killed your father, so that everybody would be thinking that was going to be the thing, the big reveal, not knowing what was coming. And so James Earl Jones, there's this great interview. I saw it on YouTube recently, and they're leading up to it, and he goes, and so George sits me down. And he says, "This is the actual line," and he hands me a piece of paper, and I read it. "I am your father." The devil you say, in the way that James Earl Jones can only say it, that with that voice that can resonate through concrete, right? And he was just so shocked by it himself. He was like, "What?" And then I saw another one where Mark Hamill was brought into an office, and Kirshner says, "Okay, I'm about to tell you something."
And you can't tell
And
anybody else.
No. The exact way Mark Hamill was told it was, "I know this thing, George knows this thing, and then you will know this thing. So we know that if somebody else hears this, it's going to come from you. It's going to have come from you."
Yeah.
So, and then tells him what's going to happen and what the actual twist is. And Hamill will go on to say, as soon as that meeting was over with, I had to go to lunch with Carrie. Oh. The absolute worst person to tell anything, right? Because he had to, Carrie, if you wanted anybody to have a secret, if you wanted the entire cast to have a secret, you told Carrie. It was telephone, telegram, telecarry.
Yeah.
That was, and then she would spread it all over the place. So to have
That knowledge.
and you sit down at lunch with Carrie Fisher, and she says, "Well, what was the meeting with George all about?" And he said, "Oh, it was nothing much, just some plot stuff." And she knew he was full of shit right there on the spot. She knew it, and she started pumping him for information. He wouldn't break. He held true.
They say he didn't tell his wife.
He didn't even tell his wife.
Yeah,
No.
what a hard secret to keep. My gosh.
Yeah, it's amazing. Isn't that the thing? And I mean, we're so spoiler starved now. We want them all the time. We want to know everything about the movie before we see it these days, which I think is horrible. But to have that secret out there and have it kept, and you're in that audience. I remember that moment, 9 years old. I remember that moment. And you hear Vader say, "I am your father." Oh, sorry, spoilers. And the entire auditorium went like, "What?" at the same time. There was like there was
amazing.
There was people going, "What?" And it was amazing.
And David Prowse did not know any of those lines.
Right.
Because had he known, he said that he would have acted a little differently during.
Yeah, his body movements would have been different.
Yeah.
But they kept the actual reveal away even from him. So even Vader didn't know what he was about to say.
It reminds me, do any of you watch The Good Place?
I watched a little bit of the first season, but I never really got into
When
it.
we watched it.
Okay.
Oh, yeah.
There's Ted Danson, I guess, is the one never tell spoilers to.
Okay.
He'll tell everyone. And especially the end of the first season, there's a really big spoiler.
Yeah.
That they eventually had to bring the entire cast in to the office just before they filmed it to explain this last episode because no one knew what it was. And if you go on YouTube, there's video of is it Greg Daniels or Mike Shore, the creator of the show, telling them what the spoiler for this last episode is, and they're all freaking out.
Yeah.
And it's so much fun. And that's what it reminds me of the Mark Hamill being the only one to know the "I am your father"
Right.
part. They say Harrison Ford found out watching the movie at the premiere.
Yeah, yeah. And
then there's
Mark Hamill does this great impression of Harrison Ford. Oh, kid, you didn't tell me anything. And
I know, I was looking for that piece of
And
trivia.
then Harrison Ford apparently busted him for it. He goes, I don't sound like that. Yeah, you kind of do.
Yeah.
Oh, jeez.
So,
And they try to do the same thing in the Mandalorian. I mean,
Right.
They keep that secret there.
yeah. And they succeed.
And in today's age, they succeeded.
They succeeded. I mean, everybody knew a Jedi was going to show up at the end of Mandalorian. They just didn't know which one. And when you see that figure walking down the hall with the black cloak, it's obvious. It's like, and then the green lightsaber comes out with the gloved hand.
Just chills. It's
Oh
just,
my God! I remember freaking out.
Spoilers for those that haven't seen Mandalorian.
I am sitting there on my couch, my poor dog. I'm like, oh my God, it's him, it's him, it's him. I'm 50 years old and I'm acting like a 12-year-old kid. I'm like, oh my God.
Well, it is made for kids, the movies,
Yeah, well, or kids at heart.
That's right. So
It's a thing. So here we are.
yeah. So that was
We're at the end of that particular story, and
We're going to have to possibly take a quick break because
we're going to take a quick break at this point. So we'll wrap up some thoughts in a moment. And we're back, ladies and gentlemen, boys and girls, dudes and dudettes. So yeah, I mean, it was kind of weird. We went to break really quickly there because something happened in the background. But I loved how we've talked about it before already today. The movie ending on a cliffhanger. I think that's the best part. Is it leaves you hanging. It leaves you wanting more. So having a sequel that was successful to begin with was a new thing. But then having a sequel that made you look for the next sequel, like, oh my God, there has to be another one now. You have to have it. You have to see everything come back.
Which brings up a point that they knew going into this one that there'd be a third one.
Right.
When they made the first one,
there wasn't
they
sure
didn't
if there was
Yeah.
going to be because
Yeah.
like the first one,
first one could have bombed and you
And
never
then that
hear
was
from
that.
again. Yeah.
Right. But then in the interim between the second and the third one, you start hearing all of what George Lucas had been thinking about all along. You're getting interviews. I think we were talking about it last week a little bit. There was interviews with Carrie and Mark, and they were talking about, oh yeah, George, we're going to start working on that third movie soon, Revenge of the Jedi.
Yes.
And it's like, wait, what? But you start, and I remember even at a young age hearing about a lot of the backstory stuff. I knew that Obi-Wan had thrown Vader into a lava pit, and that's why Vader had to have the armor. And I think I was 11 or 12 years old. We were talking about stuff that we'd read in novelizations or heard in, saw in comic books and stuff like that. Things that had been hinted at, that there was this big battle between the two of them long before the first movie. Okay, cool. And then to have that actually be able to come to life in Revenge of the Sith, episode 3 way back later. It's like, oh my God, that was really a thing. I thought that was just an urban legend, but it really was the actual story. And you start hearing more and more about what Lucas had in mind, the whole Journal of the Wills and the Battle of the Star Wars and this, that, and the other thing. So it was cool to see how this whole vision has kind of unfolded. And yeah, we've kind of come to grips that in recent years with the sequel trilogy, it's a little off the rails compared to what we probably thought it would be. But there are so many other Star Wars stories out there, and over time we'll talk about them all. Like next week we'll talk about Return of the Jedi. And then we're going to jump off to something else non-Star Wars for a little while. But there's so much to talk about. We can talk about Star Wars on and off for years to come.
We could have just had a Star Wars podcast.
We really could have had it, but there's so many out there.
True.
Yeah.
So we want to talk about some other things as well along the way. There's some really cool materials, and if there's stuff that you, the listener at home, want us to, the four of us, to think about and talk about,
Challenge us.
Challenge us. Let us know. I mean, we're always willing to listen and watch something new, stuff that we haven't seen before. I just started watching on Netflix Shadow and Bone. And I'm 3 episodes in, and I'm really I'm not loving it yet, but I'm really interested and intrigued by it.
Susan liked the book.
Okay, and I figured it was probably based on a book.
Yeah.
So I'm waiting.
I'm trying to get into it.
I'm with Dan. I was trying to get into it.
I'm not fully invested yet, but there's enough keeping me going from episode to episode to see how things are going unfolding.
I pick up a little at a time here and there, but I'm not. I'm not engrossed in it yet. I can't.
Yeah.
I don't know why, but
and I think somewhere along the line we're gonna have to drop the not. And once in a while, we're going to have to do an actual book club thing. Because I haven't read an actual proper book in such a long time. I'd love to be able to sit down and have a reason to read something. And if I'm doing it as homework, then even so much the better.
Hitchhiker's Guide to the Gal. Oh, sorry.
Yeah, no, that'd be a great book.
I tried.
And
we
failed.
did it for a book club.
We love you anyway. That's
FC3,
okay.
you should
and
do a book and a movie at the same time. Can compare
That would be interesting.
Compare and
That's
contrast.
an interesting idea. Yes, I like that idea. So let's jump into a question of the week. Do we have one available to us at the moment?
Sure.
Hey, Dan, pick a number. There's another Dan in the room at the moment. Pick a number between 1 and 415. 212.
I was going to use number 10. That's the couple Star Wars. 212. 212 is. We've done that before.
We have done 212 already?
Yep.
we already did it.
We already did number 212, apparently. What's another one?
111.
111.
111.
111.
What actors or actresses play the same character in almost every movie or show they do?
Jason Statham. Sylvester Stallone. No, wait, I can't say that because there's Tango and Cash. He plays something different.
Adam Sandler.
Adam Sandler.
That's a good one.
Although Adam Sandler's been challenging himself lately. I know there was a couple movies that have come out recently that he starred in that have been...
He's done a couple dramas now.
Couple dramas
Yeah.
here and there. But mainly if he's playing a comedy, you know you're getting basically the same thing from Adam.
Will Ferrell.
Will Ferrell. That's another guy.
I'm not a fan.
Yeah.
Let's see.
Dan Belding is the worst at that. I mean, he's this character actor. Oh, he's a character. Nice, the kid in the kitchen right now. They picked out number 111.
Any actor and actresses from the Hallmark Channel.
Oh my God!
What's the same movie? There's only one movie
It's
in
the
Hallmark
same-
Channel.
It's just name change.
different change
Lori Loughlin even went to jail.
Yes. See, it's real.
in the movie.
Yeah.
Schwarzenegger, to a particular degree, played a lot of the same characters.
A lot of them. Then there's like Kindergarten Cop.
Kindergarten Cop. I mean,
It's not
Twins.
a Toma.
Twins.
Twins was great. Chris Hemsworth for a while looked like he was about to get pigeonholed into a certain type of role because of Thor, but then he broke out of that, and he's done a lot of and then he was able to change up Thor even.
Yeah.
You know, when people saw how funny he could be.
Yeah.
So you
They
see,
picked
He
the right
became the Guardian of the Galaxy.
They picked the right director. and
yes,
They changed the
that's
director.
the thing. You know, when you do that, you can inspire somebody to do more.
It was pretty amazing. how
Angelina
much
Jolie is fairly similar in all. I mean, she's always playing some sort
Lara
of unhinged.
Croft, Mr. and Mrs. Smith.
Yeah, it's some sort of action-based, badass, little unhinged. Helena Bonham Carter, for instance. The first time I saw her as relatively normal was recently. I watched Enola Holmes with Tanya here, and she plays Enola and Sherlock and Mycroft Holmes's
Mother. She's still a little off her rocker.
So well, but in an
not
entertaining.
Harry
She's
Potter
not like
off.
we're not talking Bellatrix Lestrange level nuts.
Yeah.
Who else? Cary Grant. If we want to go classics, Cary Grant was always the smooth leading man kind of guy.
Fred Astaire.
Fred Astaire, absolutely. James Cagney was always the tough guy.
Except when he played George M. Cohen. Guy wrote, I'm a Yankee Doodle.
Oh,
Dan."
right. Yeah.
He was a song and dance guy.
So even all of the mostly pigeonholed character actors
Can
find ways to
break
break out once in a while.
Julie Andrews.
Julie Andrews. Did you ever see Victor Victoria?
I
You will
didn't.
see a different side of.
No,
Yes.
it's S.O.B.
Oh, that's right. SOB was that one.
Uh-huh. Yep. S.O.B. Is Tom Hanks always a good guy now? Kind of like a modern-day Jimmy Stewart.
Yeah.
But it's the roles are such a variety of roles though. So it's
He
kinda
plays
hard.
different personalities, but he always plays
He's always
the everyman. He really, I think you nailed it. Tom Hanks is really the Jimmy Stewart of this generation, really in that regard. So, I mean, there was the Lady Killers.
Yeah.
He plays somebody who's a little off color.
That's an
but
interesting movie. A lot of people didn't like Lady Killers,
I watched.
but I
watched most of
enjoyed
it. I didn't. It was
enjoyed
all right.
Yeah.
It didn't bowl me over, but it was okay. Yeah. It wasn't bad. So think of some of those other pigeonhole typed actors. We can maybe talk about see how playing the Doctor changed or locked in the careers of various actors. Because Colin Baker, what did he do after he was the Doctor? Tom Baker. They played bit parts and cameos, but they banked on people seeing them as the Doctor at that point.
Well, then you got David Tennant, though.
David Tennant has definitely broken the mold. So is
yes.
Matt Smith is also breaking that mold at this point.
Yeah.
Chris Eccleston also, for the most part. Peter Capaldi had a career long before he became
Right.
the Doctor. So I don't think he's ever going to get locked in as anything in particular. But we'll see. We'll see how it happens. So let me know what you guys think at home. See if there's anybody who comes to mind. So how's that? Is that good?
I think it's pretty good.
That's good, Billy.
Yay!
We stayed on target. It was amazing.
Stay on target.
Yay!
Stay on target
We
most
did
of
our
the time.
best.
Yeah.
So, hey, Dan,
Hey, Chris.
I am your father.
No!
Anyway,
I thought you were his brother.
I'm that. That's more importantly. Yes,
Yeah.
that's true. So, but anyway, hey, Dan,
Hey, Chris.
hit it. This has been FC3's Monkey Business, produced by the Mighty Monkey Corporation, purveyors and producers of the Flower City Comic Con, coming at you like a spider monkey on September 25th and 26th of September 2021 at the Total Sports Experience in Gates. Follow us on Facebook, follow us on Instagram, follow us on Twitter, follow us wherever we go, and we'll lead you to where the entertainment is. You guys have a great week. Have a safe week. And we will talk to you again next week.
Dun, dun.